figured I'd make a video on my journey with investing in the stock market, whether it's mutual funds, index funds, or even stocks. Growing up, never really had anyone to teach me about this kind of stuff, so I've watched a lot of videos. But I'm going to share my journey on what I'm doing and how I can try to have a better future, for my children, for myself. Investing in the market, it's a marathon. It's not something that you get rich overnight. It just doesn't work like that unless you get super duper lucky with a stock, right? But that's not really realistic. So one other thing I'd like to mention, a lot of people are pretty private, I think, when it comes to sharing their accounts. They don't want to show them, but I know a lot of people that do YouTube videos are starting to show their balances, whether they have $1 million in there, 200,000, $100, or even $1,000 like my account. So I figured I'd be pretty transparent of what I'm doing and kind of go from there. One thing I want to mention is I have opened up an individual account on Fidelity. I was using Morgan Stanley previously, and I have actually a Roth IRA with probably about $4,500 into it that I'm actually transferring over. So I think here in about a week, my Roth IRA will come over to Fidelity, and I'll be able to pick and choose, the mutual funds that I want to get into in the stocks, and hopefully I can, try to get a 10, 11, 12% return, which isn't far-fetched at all. A lot of people say, oh, you can only do 5-6% return. That's not true. I mean, if you look at the market, you can kind of see what's going on. So the whole point of my video is just to, try to educate people as best I can. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything, but I'm going to do the best and just give transparency of what I'm doing, and show you some of the things that I'm in, and kind of go from there. So first off, we'll go to my positions. As you can see, through all my accounts, it says I have $1,028, which isn't much, but remember, you got to start somewhere. You start little and you just work on it, week after week, month after month, month after month. The key to investing, it's a marathon, as I've said, and it's being consistent. Consistency is the key, right? If the market's going up, you still put money in. If the market's going down, you keep putting money in, and you just go from there. So as you can see here, some of the items that, or some of the mutual funds, or index funds, whatever you want to call them, that I'm in, are right here. So I could go through each one, which I might. I don't really care to talk about this Fskx. I just purchased it just because I watched a video. It's like, oh, let's get a dividend growth fund, but the dividend growth on here is not that great. But we'll go into other ones of what I want to talk about. So the main one here, Fskx, is a total market index fund. It actually tracks 3,875 holdings, and you can see Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. This one here mimics one of the Vanguard ones that's pretty popular, almost to the T. A lot of people go with Vanguard and swear up and down by it, which I understand where they're coming from if you watch other videos and kind of learn why Vanguard was created, which is pretty cool. But this fund here, I like that it has a ton of different holdings in it, and the returns have been pretty amazing over the last 10 years. I mean, average returns are almost 16%, which is kind of cool. I like this one here. As you can see, based on my portfolio, I have just one share, a little over one share. One other fund that Fidelity offers that is similar to the Fskx, but not identical, I said similar, is Fskx. So this one here is another total market index fund. However, it has about 1,100 less holdings. The reason why I purchased this one here, let me backtrack a little bit. Fskx has been around since 1997. In 1997, I was 12 years old. So, obviously I didn't invest I didn't have any money at that age, and nobody was teaching me about stocks and mutual funds and index funds. So I did purchase Fskx for a couple reasons. The fund inception for this one was in 2018, so it's only 3 years old. So we're not going to see a 5-year or a 10-year like we will with Fskx, right? And personally, for me, it's seeing. I guess maybe this probably doesn't matter, but seeing a bigger number where a share costs $130 versus 16. In my mind, it's like, wow, I can own more of it at a lesser price, even though that probably doesn't matter in the long run. So I think eventually it'll probably be even. The ratio will be, I guess, even at a later date, right? I can own X amount of these to equal the same amount as one of these. So I think trying to diversify a little bit will help, but I think I'm more intrigued to invest in this one here, only because, like I said, it shows a cheaper price, even though it's kind of the same difference. But that's just how I'm thinking about it. So back to this. Another thing that I like about Fidelity is you can change the way these look. So I like to view this as, hey, the quantity that I have, the last price, and the cost basis per share of what I paid for it. It shows green here. The market's been like on a bull run for a really long time, but the last couple of days, everything was bleeding in red. So if you follow the market, you can see that there's things that are going on right now. There's another coronavirus variant that's out, and people are probably getting scared. And but as I've said already, be consistent, continue to invest. I'm being as transparent as I can on this. That way, yeah, I don't have $100,000 in here, but eventually I will. So if you keep watching and tuning in, I'll do a video once a week, once every 2 weeks. I plan to keep investing every 2 weeks. That's the goal, and just kind of see where my portfolio goes. Another thing that I wanted to get into investing was like dividend income. And a lot of owning stocks, they do pay dividends, and some of them are higher than others. So it's like the company rewards you for having owning shares in their company, which is kind of cool. So I can click this dividend view here, and it actually tells you the amount per share and the pay date, right? So let's say like FXAIX, which is a 500 index fund, it'll pay 52 cents a share, right? But it's also, the last price is showing you a lot higher than like an FZROX is going to pay you 17 cents a share. And so typically, from my understanding, the dividends are either paid monthly, quarterly, or even yearly. You have to do your research on that. But one thing I wanted to mention was this AT&T stock. If you look at the yield, it's 9%, which I think is pretty good. However, the stock, from what I've noticed on AT&T, it fluctuates quite a bit. So if I look at, let's see here, I'll actually pull it up and see right here, AT&T. So let's take a look at it real quick. So annual dividend is $2.08 per share, as this one said here previously. 52 cents. So 52 times 4 is 208, and they're obviously paying quarterly if you look at the math that way. So I think that's kind of cool. If we look at the stock here of inception date, right? So AT&T came out, it looks like, in November 21st of 1983. Oh, you know what? You probably can't really see that good because oh yeah, you can see that. I thought my screen was actually covering it. So it came out in 1983. Obviously, I didn't exist at that time. But if you look at it over the last, 30, 40 years, it went all the way up to, $57. And then 2000, I see, Y2K. It was probably a scare, so everything dipped, and then for some reason it just fell, right? And then they recovered, and then we had the market crash in 2008. and it went down again, and then you follow it, and then we had the coronavirus, bam, right? And it went down, it just kept going down. So, but the thing about dividend investing, I don't really care if the stock goes down a lot. Now, if this went from $23 to like $2, that would suck. However, if it can float around, a few dollars here and there, 23 to 20 to 26, then I will be okay with that, even if I had $10,000 invested into it, because of the dividend yield. I'm going after this dividend yield. I know a lot of people on YouTube or other people that are investing that are dividend investors, and they want to be able to earn, an extra $20 or $50 or $100 a month on dividends. And once that starts compounding, I mean, start bringing in a lot of money. And they say the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, right? So I mean, once you get going, you can do pretty well. Anyways, back to my position. So Fskx is a 500 index fund. So this one here, it has 508 holdings. I've watched other videos, and it seems like a good fund. It's a 5-star rating. Average returns are pretty good. The expense ratio is cheap, 0.015%. I mean, that's nothing, right? It's almost literally free to own this stock, this index fund. And so if you look at the last 10 years of how it's returned, 16.15%. It's pretty good. I mean, imagine, it's just growing and growing and growing. So I think one thing I dislike about looking at index funds on Fidelity is that the chart, this just shows hypothetical growth, unlike a stock, right? So like this Meta stock here, it's an ETF, right? So it actually has the chart of how it's done. But let me backtrack a little bit here. So if we look at FXAIX stock, and we pull it up like on Yahoo Finance, I like that it shows a kind of a graph of what it's done, right? So from here, at $45 a share, all the way up to, you can see the growth, from 2011 all the way to 21 for the last 10 years, which is kind of cool. I just wish Fidelity would have something like that. Now, if they do, if somebody wants to leave a comment, educate me on how to, look at something different here to be able to see that instead of a hypothetical growth, I'd appreciate that. That'd be kind of neat. So maybe I'm just doing something wrong on here. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I'm learning as I go and just kind of going from there. And investing is there is risk involved. I honestly don't think it'll ever go to zero, because if it went to zero, that means all these companies went bankrupt, and us as Americans or the United States won't allow something like that to happen. But who knows? I mean, you've seen people lose 30-40% of their account back in 2020 when Corona came. But what you got to do is not sell, you just hold, and you see the growth that has happened over this year. Another fund that I'm in is this Fskx, which is an international fund. There's 2418 holdings. So basically, I'm trying to diversify myself and not just have United States funds, but I figured, hey, why not venture out and see what other funds are out there that are internationally. And this is one that I saw on another video, and I said, hey, it's a foreign large blend. It came out 3 years ago. I'm sure there's another fund that probably mimics the S&P 500 or the Fskx. That's an international one. I just haven't really looked super hard into it and have tried to find it. But it's the cool thing about this fund here is there's no fees, and I think Fidelity does that to try to get people to come over, and eventually they'll probably add like a fee to it. But they have 4 funds that are like that, and here's 2 of them, which is FCILX and FCROX. Other than that, I mean, this is what I've done so far. I just trying to figure it out and keep keep educating myself, keep reading, keep watching videos, keep learning. Eventually, you know, if a fund, if I'm in this for 30, 40 years, I may have 35 good years and 5 horrible years, right? But at the end of the day, keeping your money in a bank account and getting 0.05% is horrible. So, you know, I'll just be upfront. Having $20,000 in one of my savings account, I think they gave me like 96 cents, or I think it was $22,000 or $21,000. They gave me, it was garbage. It was like, wow, like why? I know keeping it in there is, you know, really safe, but putting it into a market is, you know, you got to be willing to risk it. And at the end of the day, if you know, if you need it right away, sure, you have to sell and get your money out. But if the market tanks, then what you need to do is just hold on to your britches and wait till it goes back up. And you know, eventually it should, right? But yeah, this is my journey so far. You know, I don't have much in here. Like I said, a little over $1,000. You know, I plan to probably do at least continuing to do the 500 per month towards the Roth IRA, and then maybe another 250 to 500 into mutual funds or other stocks as well. I'm really interested in a lot of dividend ones, right? So that have a high yield, anywhere from 7.5 to 11%. I know they're out there. I just have to figure out which ones I want to buy into, and hope that the stock doesn't actually drop tremendously, and I can keep getting kind of a nice yield that can compound over time. And as I've said before, this isn't a overnight thing. It's a long-term investment. Hopefully, a lot more people get into it. I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited to teach my children as they get older the fundamentals of investing and money. And this is stuff they don't teach in school, and they probably should. This is something that they just don't teach. So I look for educational videos on YouTube myself to be able to learn a lot more. And I think it takes money to make money. I think if I didn't have the income, and with my wife, if she didn't have the income and we couldn't do something like this, it's hard, But when you're making good money, it's easy to be able to invest, right? Think about it. Someone making, well, let me backtrack a little bit. If somebody who's making 20 grand a year, can they invest? Well, if they live at home, they don't, if they're young and they live with their parents, they can afford to be able to do something. But I actually think everybody can invest, even if it's $50 a month, $20 a week, whatever it is. I mean, just be consistent and put your money in there. It's exciting. It's addicting, right? I mean, if I had millions and millions, I'd want to put more into it, but I have to take my time. And because we all have debt, whether it's a house payment with children, right? They're expensive. Other things that we got to pay off, but I still think being consistent on here is pretty cool. So I'm gonna do the best that I can for my family, and see where this goes. But I know in the long run, I think I'll come out on top. So it just takes time. This is going to be the next 30, 40, 50 years, as long as I get to live long enough. I feel like I'm getting a late start, but I also know where our income is at, and it's pretty decent to where, if we wanted to invest, $2,000 a month or $2,500 a month, we can. However, we don't want to, put too much into it and then overextend, right? So limit yourself on what you want to do on here, and then go from there. But if you have any suggestions or any other info for me, or if I gave wrong info, please educate me. I love constructive criticism, and it allows me to be better and do better in my videos. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and we'll see the journey. But I think that the next video I'm going to do will probably be in about a week, once my Roth IRA hits. It's about, like I said, about $4,600. and then I can pick out stocks. So I got to really figure out what index funds that I want to get into or stocks. I might do a mix of, you know, certain index funds like the Fskx or FCROX, along with some dividend growth stocks that have, you know, like I said, 7.5 to 10, 11% return, and then kind of go from there. But typically with the Roth IRA, it's something that I don't know if I want to be super aggressive or not. I think I'm still young enough. Well, I'm 36, so I have to figure out how aggressive I want to be and then kind of chill out. But the end goal for me is to have, you know, $1 million, $1.5 million, and, you know, go from there and try to, you know, have a good retirement, I guess, you know, in the next 20, 25 years. I don't really want to work till I'm 60 or 62 or 65, but, you know, it's, I think the more we put in here, the better off we're going to be in the long run, and, you know, figure out what to do. You know, I hope more people educate themselves and get into this, and then go from there. But, you know, it's going to be a long journey, and so I'm excited and take it day by day and try not to look at it, right? But it's hard not to, because, you know, it sucks seeing red. When I saw red, my heart kind of dropped. I'm like, man, when I mean red, all this, you know, you're negative, negative, negative. But then it rebounds, you know, it changes every day. So one last thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to talk about this meta one. So everybody keeps talking about the metaverse, and, you know, everything's going to be changing online, you know, virtual reality. Well, I started looking into it, and I'm like, man, I want to get into some type of fund like this. So I did, right? So I found this Round Hill Ball Metaverse ETF. It started, I think, maybe 6 months ago, something like that. But here it is right here. It has 43 holdings, and the 43 holdings are NVIDIA, Microsoft, Roblox, you know, etc., Amazon. I'm not going to go into everything. But I think a lot of this, you know, obviously it's a lot of technology, and it's a lot of things that are going to help towards that metaverse. And, you know, that metaverse platform, or what's going to happen with it, is the future. So if people don't believe it, then, I mean, I'm sorry, but technology is changing. I mean, look what's happened over the last 20 years. I mean, look what happened when the internet came out. It's been nuts, right? So I think this could be a good fund. You know, there is an expense ratio for it. So when I bought like $150 of it, I think they charged me like, I don't know, a couple bucks, $3 or something like that. But hopefully this one here, you know, hopefully it goes up, and, you know, hopefully it turns into $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 later per share down the road. But I mean, who knows what's going to happen, right? Got to take a gamble and take a chance. So I do have high hopes for this one here. And you know what? We'll see what happens. You know, there's not a lot of data on it, but you got to do your own research. So this one is one that I'm going to be putting quite a bit of money in and taking that chance, right? And hopefully, you know, I can 10x or 20x my money down the road and go from there. But other than that, you know, I think that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to you know, checking out what's going to go on with everything on Fidelity. And you know, I chose Fidelity just, you know, I looked at M1 Finance. I was doing stuff on Morgan Stanley, but I didn't really care to, you know, pay a fee, even though it's low, you know, like 1.25%, which is still a lot. I think it's low, but it can be a lot if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in there, right? I looked at M1 Finance. Actually, I do like M1 Finance's app on the phone, and it's pretty neat. You can do pie charts and stuff. But I think, you know, I've made a decision to stick with Fidelity, and I'm just gonna go from there and see what happens. So, you know, you decide what you want to use, but this is what I'm using. I'm going to share my journey. Next time we do this video, hopefully I have a few more things and a lot more shares, but I'll share my journey with whoever wants to watch this video, the world, or whoever, you know, that wants to listen. And you're going to see my account grow over the next, you know, 5, 10, 15 years. I'll keep putting videos out, you know, and be consistent. And whether it's negative or positive, we'll see what happens. But all I gotta say is I appreciate you watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you got any advice, as I've stated, you know, please give let me know and how I can do better. And subscribe, hit the like button, share the video if you want, and let's all try to win together. I appreciate your time. Thank you and have a good day.